So here's my wallpaper accent wall. I'll quickly show you how I went from this to the final thing pictured here. I've actually unboxed the imagination sign in a previous video on the channel if you want to check that out, knowing that I would later hang it to create this accent wall. For this particular sign behind me, I actually ran the cable through the drywall where the ceiling and drywall meet, and I fed that cable into my front closet where I had an electrician friend of mine wire up an electrical outlet so I could plug it in there and have it all look neat and tidy. Big ups to Randy for doing that, as he spent a lot of time up in this little hole wiring everything into the closet. Randy's up on a ladder, wedged in this little tiny hole up here.
That's always done.
Trying to wire up the electrical, plug in the neon sign, which is going to be mounted to the ceiling, drop down. The wires are going to be run through that wall. All right, we're doing the test. Power's in, the sign's working. You can see the plugs in here, freshly installed, and we're good to go now. I had a bunch of my photography up surrounding a large photo collage. This was all framed by this like wooden border thing that the previous owners had glued to the wall. So after taking down everything, as you could imagine, put the wall into pretty rough shape. After multiple rounds of sanding and patching up the damage, the wall was painted a dark gray for the base of the wallpaper. After a lot of back and forth on which wallpaper design to move forward with, I chose a black and green geometric jungle-esque repeating palm tree design. Once the wall was now flat, finished, and clean, I hired a professional wallpaper installer to put up the wallpaper, as I have zero experience with doing this and I wanted the best result possible. The installers were super quick and super pro, and I was really happy with the wall when it was through. But now for the fun part of mounting up the sign. Again, as I mentioned earlier in the planning process, I'm a huge fan of hanging the sign using U-bolts, chains, and hooks, as this not only keeps the wall clean, not having to put any holes into it, but allows the light from the sign to be utilized and illuminate the wallpaper by hanging it a few inches away from the wall. After everything was done, onto the cable management process of tidying the power cables by running them up the chains through those U-bolts onto the ceiling and feeding the excess cable into the wall where they run into the power supply that's plugged into my closet. Power supply unit. Okay, so the plan is to take this sign and mount it in front of the brick wall, mount these into the concrete ceiling, hang the sign with the chains, just like we did the first sign. Okay, so if you are going to ceiling mount your sign, you're gonna wanna measure the distance between each hole on your sign and then make your anchors at the same length on your ceiling or wall. Drilling into concrete does require a special drill and does make a huge mess. Okay, so after all the U-bolt anchors were drilled into the concrete, big shout out to my dad, the master of concrete, for helping me with the install of these signs. But after everything was mounted, it was onto the power run and cable management process. Cable management before shot. There's tons to be done to make it all nice, neat, and tidy. I ran the 4 power cables coming out of the sign, up the chain, and into the provided 12-foot power extension cables. And this is the cable management after shot, after I just spent about an hour on the ladder, tightening and tying everything down so it's nice and tidy. I used cable ties and those nylon straps to sort of run everything and tie everything down. Okay, so now that everything is installed, I'm gonna show you a few of my favorite preset effects here that the Magic Neon version of this sign comes with. There are so many effects in the app that I'm not gonna be able to showcase them all here, but I am fast forwarding through a bunch of different preset effects that are my favorites. The one other thing that I did want to demo was the music modes. There are a couple that are really, really cool. Another option to consider is doing a hedge wall, such as I've done. I've actually created an entire video on how to do this yourself, but if you put up a hedge wall with a neon sign, not only does it look absolutely great, the hedge wall provides a great way to hide your cables so you don't have to see it to plug in the sign. I do find a really good aesthetic is to pair your neon sign with some sort of decorative wall or texture to really add that sense of contrast and make it pop. I've hung my signs from the ceiling and I've actually put them about 6 to 8 inches in front of the wall so they throw all that light back on the wall and illuminate it and really show the beauty of the wall. With my brick wall, this wall wallpapered, and I have my hedge wall. So it's a really cool idea to pair your neon sign to make like sort of an ultimate accent wall, because not only does it provide that contrast with the neon sign and the textures, but it adds a lot of light to shine onto your accent wall. Okay, so these signs are pretty awesome and I've been absolutely blown away by their aesthetic here in my space. So if you're interested in getting your own neon sign, I've made an entire neon sign buyer's guide video, which should be popping up on screen now, that goes further in depth on absolutely everything you need to know about buying your own neon sign, from prep and planning to all the options available, where to buy and how to install. So why don't you go ahead and give that video a little click-see for more information.